Good morning, world. Maria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to Stars Are Us, our monthly astrology show with my excellent, hip to everything going on in the world astrologer. I don't know too many people that can brag that. Joe Anthony. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning. Boy, are we in for an interesting month?
Yeah, well, it looks like I already got the preview and talking to a lot of other people. For me, it's manifesting physically. Hi, this is my Maria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education by a small subscription on my site. Get over to maria.net, MERIA.net. And I talked to you before the show. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a
Well,
donation
I
to
could give
keep
you
the
the
work going. There
astrological
are too many
explanation. I could give
alternative
you the
voices out
intuitive
there that are being
explanation,
silenced
and
because
they
of
both
lack
would
of
make sense,
support.
of course.
So if you
But from
don't
an
want
astrological
MSM to
standpoint,
be
we're
the
going
only
through
mind
Virgo.
controlling
Virgo controls
news
the nervous
out there,
system. It
please
controls the
consider
digestive
supporting the
system, the
people that
stomach.
support you
It's
and
very
help us
sensitive to
all
sudden
save
changes in
something for the
environment and so
future
on,
for our
including
children.
food,
Thank you so
water.
much.
So whatever contaminants or stuff that's not healthy for us, the body will become more sensitive as we go through the sign of Virgo. Now, we've had 4 or 5 planets in Virgo, especially Jupiter as well. So things with the body are kind of normal right now. On an intuitive level, on a sort of common sense level, as I've been saying all along, the sun is changing its phases. It's doing something out there that we can't quite understand, and it has to do with energy. And it's coming in at either a higher frequency. The high pitched squealing that I've been hearing for months has now gone away. It's not as loud. I could hear it from time to time, but it's not as loud and it's not as prevalent. So something is happening to the phases of the sun, and I mean I'm all over it, and I'm sure you are, and your listeners are as well, from space weather and other places. And so if we keep an eye on that as well. So it's a combination of the two, Maria, because it's just unusual to have these muscles ache like they have been. And I certainly know what you're talking about. My shoulders, my lower back from time to time, and then these hot flashes
Right.
that are unexplainable out of nowhere.
Right. I
Okay.
feel those too, and tingling, and I was sitting outside yesterday reading a book, and my big toe just started moving and wiggling by itself, and I was like, "What the
Nice.
hell is this? What's happening here?" So whatever the
Well,
sun is
I,
doing, we all better focus on the sun getting its shit together because I'm not happy here.
yeah, yeah.
Get it
Well, the
together.
one thing that I did get years ago, and I get these visions from time to time, like many others, is that something about resting. And I was like, what the resting? Sleeping, laying down, what? And the information has come through over the course of the years, but now I'm understanding why. Because of the heavy doses of this radiation or frequency change, whatever you want to call it, that our bodies were going to need plenty of rest. And now I understand it. And so I suggest it to my clients. I suggest it to everyone. If you're feeling overwhelmed and tired and sleepy, just rest. Sit down on the couch for 5, 10, 15 minutes. If you have to lay down 15, 20 minutes. It's not you. It's whatever is in the air is really affecting all of us, because it's not just you and I and a few other people here in Sedona. I've got clients that are feeling the same thing. I feel so sleepy. I feel so lethargic. I feel so this. I feel so that. And so I know it's not just us, Maria. And so this is part of the dynamic shift, and I believe that this month we have some of the most, transformational energy at play, probably out of the whole year. And I know we'll get into the astrology in a few minutes, but it is just very, very strong. And
Right.
so you can't fight the currents. It's like trying to swim and the waves are coming in. You're at the beach and the waves are coming in, and they're coming in and they're pulling you under and they're dragging you and they're batting you around like a little ball. It's hard to compete with that, even though we have free will and we realize who we are as spiritual beings. But sometimes you just have to go with the flow. you
Yeah,
know.
tell me about it. Well, it's interesting you said something about whatever's in the air. I was reading this morning that when they sprayed, I believe it was the Carolinas, for the Zika virus, well, the spray ended up killing all the bees in one beekeeper's place. And a lot of people say that it feels like they were hit with a bomb. Because if it's killing the bees and all other living things, humans are breathing that shit too. And with the chemtrails, with chemtrails and people being so used to them, we wouldn't know what they're spraying over our head on any given day. I'm like, what'd they do? Did they spray the Zika virus in my town?
Well, I think it has more roots in the water, to be honest with you, because everything is eventually falling down onto the ground and seeping into the water system. So I would rather test the water than anything else. We know the food's being contaminated, but the water is a major issue. And so as we go through these changes, I think we're becoming more and more sensitive, or more and more awake, if you will. And so our bodies are becoming more in tune with the higher frequency. And so that means if there's anything in the air, yes, we're going to feel it, especially with Jupiter in Virgo. Right. And these other planets going through Virgo right now. It's, Virgo is the sign of the perfectionist, but it's also the sign of the hypochondriac. And so that's because Virgo is very sensitive to everything. And so what we've got right now is our increased sensitivity with some of the poison that's in the air, for sure, but the water is the key. And I said this back in my presentation in 2009 when Neptune entered Pisces. Neptune in Pisces is a very water-dominant symbol. And so what we have here, and I said to please watch things to do with water, anything to do with water, from poisoning water, from hurricanes to disasters, natural disasters on sea, anything related to oil. And we've seen them over the years.
Oh,
and
yeah.
now, just this month alone, look at the hurricanes and the weathers that are about to hit the Florida coastlines.
Right, but how I feel about that. I always say whoever calls the weather creates the weather. What did you think about yesterday? Of all days, I'm like, what the hell? Where that rocket exploded from NASA. It was a SpaceX craft. It was supposed to be, putting up some kind of stuff for Facebook, and it just exploded. And I thought to myself, every time this happens is when they're launching on a Mercury retrograde. Why don't they look at an astrology calendar and skip sending anything into space on a Mercury retrograde?
I got news for you. I watched that video carefully, and I did see something in the upper, right above the rocket. If you look very carefully after the explosion, there seems to be some sort of orb or light above it. Now, I'm not saying I know for sure, but we do know a lot about UFOs, and ETs. Your audience is very well educated. So I would not doubt that whatever we're trying to send into space, that it's being met with resistance.
Can't understand why.
Yeah, because we're trying to sneak in, satellites up there and other technologies that are trying to control the atmosphere or spy on other countries and so on and so forth. And I think these craft that are hovering around our atmosphere, and there are tons of them, as you know, Maria, from that video, the UFO space shuttle video. Right. They're there. And so I think that they're interceding or interjecting, and maybe they're just, making it look like sabotage or just blowing it up. Right. They're basically saying to the little children here on the planet, stop playing with the damn matches.
Exactly. Well, when they said they found so many more planets similar to Earth, they said there's so many of them that there are more of them than there are people on the Earth, and they think they're habitable. And I said, let's hope to God man never lands on another planet, because we'll only destroy it the same way we did here. So maybe they're actually blocking us.
And it's very possible, because we are not evolved, or whatever over the thousands of years that we've been genetically altered, and they're keeping us on this prison planet for a reason, because we're just not as evolved as they are. And what I mean by that is just our intuition level, our awareness of who we are is not up to speed. I mean, you just look at the news every day, and Maria, you could clearly see that we're still asleep over here.
Oh yeah, you don't have to tell me. I mean, I was like a psychopath yesterday, and then I noticed that I was extremely emotional yesterday. I mean, to the point where I'm in the middle of my workout and Michael Jackson's song Heal the World comes on, my iPod, and I started crying. I had to change it. And then I heard another
Yeah.
song. I started crying. I had to change it. I says, I better go back to
Yeah.
just 60s, 60s hard rock. Otherwise, I didn't think I could
Right.
get through my workout yesterday. And a lot of people are
Well,
telling me they're feeling that way.
I totally agree, and I totally understand that because I find myself watching. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, everything from the conspiracy stuff and the truth to children, these young children singing like adults, and the animals playing with children, and so on. And I find myself tearing up as well because what's actually happening is we're either releasing energy or we're becoming more in tune with the higher frequency, which is more loving.
Right.
I've been saying this all along. It's a more loving energy. It's not a lower frequency.
Right.
And this is why the criminal elite that are trying to destroy this planet are trying to keep us in this lower frequency is because then at that point they can't control us anymore. So it's really a higher vibration that's going to benefit us in the long term.
Right.
And I see that coming, but it's not going to happen overnight. I'm
Right.
sorry. It's just not going to. It's going to be 10, 15, 20 years before we actually are flowing in the energy and feeling the energy in a way that we should.
Well, and the other thing, it's interesting you talked about that because I don't know if you've had time yet to hear the interview I did with David Icke this week. But David said that what he's noticing as he travels around the world is the awakening and how fast, how it's moving, how many more people are showing up, how many more people are aware. But I did ask David, the problem is, are they awakening fast enough?
Well,
And when I look at especially social media, which is like it's like entering a madhouse now. What I find is so many people, even people I don't know, but I like to read other people's posts, kind of gives you the pulse on what's going on out there. So many
Right.
people are depressed. They actually are saying they're depressed, they're crying over this election. They can't take it anymore. This is what I'm hearing, not just from them, but even the 80-year-old Republicans at my gym. They refuse to watch the TV anymore. A lot of them say they don't even want to vote. A lot of them say, I'll be glad I'll be dead soon. And the depression and the anger that's out there over this election, the divide and conquer, as you can see how ugly this is getting. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen anything as bizarre as this election.
Yeah. Well, let me try and explain from an astrological standpoint what's going on. This past year, Jupiter has been in Virgo. Now, Jupiter expands everything or brings to light things that are smaller, and it magnifies them. In Virgo's the analyzer. So Virgo tends to look at the small details of every aspect of our lives. So subconsciously, Jupiter that's been going through Virgo this past year has been looking at every small detail and looking right through the lies and the manipulation and the stuff that's not true. Because Virgo has this great ability to see through that. It's like they have X-ray vision. Now the depression factor is also being caused by Saturn squaring Neptune. Both of these planets represent very heavy energy. Saturn is a restrictive, heavy energy that says, I'm going to build structures, I'm going to build walls. And Neptune is about sort of confusion. It's about sadness. It's about feeling everything and not knowing what to do with this energy. So with Saturn squaring Neptune, we have this confusion between our foundation, our core, our structure, the lies that we've been taught, versus the Neptune fogginess of disillusionment and trying to figure out where we're going. These two are very confusing because they're at odds with each other astrologically. So this is causing some depression because at a deeper level, our core belief is being torn apart. And I don't care if you're watching the political elections or if you're watching the daily news or you're watching stuff around the world. Our perception of reality is shifting. And so we can't look at elections anymore because we could see right through them.
Right.
We could see the lies. We could see the people who are controlling them, And so it's hard for us to fathom these people. And of course, as I always say, stop giving your power away to these people. They are just actors. it just bothers me, and it boggles my mind when at this day and age with this technology and information that we could access,
right,
not to be able to connect the dots to who they support and who they're connected to.
right. Well, that's why I say one of the benefits of Bernie Sanders running is everybody finally realized that their vote doesn't matter. And, with the super delegates, the delegates, I mean, he did get everybody's attention before I'm sure his life and his family's life was threatened by the Clinton killing machine. But, I think he helped wake people up. And I think that's part of the anger out there is 86% of Americans hate both candidates. Okay. And I think they're getting the realization both of them are criminal in their own way, lying pieces of dirt. And people are like, what choice do we have? But, when I look at other countries, Venezuela, they had a protest yesterday. God, I'm trying to remember what city it was, where it was. 1 million people showed up in a city of 2 million. Okay, that might have been Venezuela because I have so many news stories floating around my head. But here in America, everybody's sitting back and worried about whether an NFL star sang the national anthem or stood up. And how can people be focused on that when our elections are now visibly being stolen right in front of our faces?
Well, look, I'm glad you brought up the other countries because it's happening worldwide. So it's not just over here.
Right.
And of course, we astrologers know Pluto in Capricorn, Pluto representing major transformation and destruction, and Capricorn, the structures, the institutions. As we continue to see this planet go through and work its magic, we are beginning to see this worldwide. This grand awakening to what politics really is.
Right.
Politics is nothing but a game, a show.
Right.
And
right. Key syllable ticks.
The more, yeah. And so the more we think that these people are going to save us or make our lives better, the worse off we become.
Right.
The best thing we could do if we want to be focused on politics is at the local level, at the state level.
I hear you.
That has more power. That has more control. You understand what's happening on a local level.
Right.
Of course, the powers that shouldn't be keep erecting these larger entities like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and the UN, and all this other stuff because they're unelected.
Right.
And so they're trying to control from the top down, and where it's opposite when it comes to politics, we need to follow politics from the local side up. And so if that's one's interest in politics, that's where it needs to start, at the state and the local level. And but all of it is being transformed. We're being able to see through it. And one of the guys I listened to had a great point. He says, at this day and age with all this technology, we don't need the system that we have right now. We're going to have to change it at some point to where individuals just go online or on their phone and vote for the people they want, and the referendums and
right.
And all the laws that they want to pass and so on, because it's so much easier right now. Obviously, we have to have an honest system in place.
Well, I mean, we already don't have if they can throw the vote on voting machines, then how they can manipulate online voting. Unless, of course, somebody decides to go in and hack it and change it. But I think that, we've got to change the qualifications for people running for office. And we've got to change it to also include that they get psychologically tested.
Well, I think there's two things that need to be done. One, you have to enact term limits. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
There has to be term limits. And number two, there has to be, a disclosure when it comes to people donating. In other words, no corporations are donating. It has to be individuals. And this was Teddy Roosevelt's suggestion. If you read some of his speeches, he hated the corporations because he knew that you could basically just hide behind your corporation and say, hey, well, the corporation gave this
right.
kind of money for support and so on. Instead, it should be the individuals.
I also believe that no one running for, especially president or Congress, should have more than a net worth of $500,000, because otherwise they can't represent people in America. And maybe $500,000 is high because the average American doesn't even have $1,000 in the bank.
Right.
But the
Well,
inequality is everywhere. We got two establishment candidates, both of them criminal in their own way. And no wonder people are so psychotic over this election. At least
well,
sometimes they'd throw somebody that pretended to be, usable. But I hate to say it, Joe, people are going to miss the days of Barack Obama, no matter who gets in. And I'm no
here's the thing.
fan of Barack Obama.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of anybody there, but the bottom line is this, and I read this article the other day. It said no matter who wins, okay, even if we have an election, that's a big if because that's still circulating out there. No matter who wins, there's going to be some sort of conflict.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, bottom line.
absolutely. And the truth of the matter is, if Trump gets in and doesn't build that goddamn wall, his own followers will probably try to murder him. Because as soon as he starts vacillating on, his stand on immigration, they slam the crap out of him. So he has created people that are crazier than him. So, it wasn't surprising to me that he basically snuck into Mexico the other day on an unmarked plane. So for such a tough guy, why did he have to be helicoptered directly to the palace, He's
Right.
and refusing to meet with black leaders. Everything's going to be prescripted with them. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. So let me ask you this: the hell with the election, okay? Vote Jill Stein. Your vote don't matter anyway. Make sure you vote on your propositions, okay? That's what affects you, people. Yesterday, the new moon happened on a solar eclipse in Virgo. Maybe that's why I started crippling up. So I'm like, what's happening here? What does that mean? I mean, I think that sounds pretty huge. A new moon on a solar eclipse.
Well, this is the second. This is the second series. The last one's happened in March, and so anytime we have eclipses, they are powerful doorways. They amplify the new moon. It's like the new moon is on steroids. And so the new moon in Virgo is going to continue to amplify the need for vaccinations or lack of vaccinations, food, anything associated with Virgo, perfection, analyzing. So over the next 6 months, again, 6 months to a year, because this is how long these eclipses do linger in a sense, we will continue to scrutinize, analyze our food, our water, our health, Mother Earth. We will continue to make these very important focal points. You see, so we will continue to be skeptical. We will continue to question our values and question where we're going in terms of our careers, our employment. And so this is very important, and because it's also very poorly aspected. And what I mean by that, if you folks that don't follow astrology, is there's a T-square in effect, which is always challenging energy. Right. So the new moon is opposing Neptune, once again, fogginess, confusion, uncertainty, and then it's squaring Saturn and Mars in Sagittarius, our beliefs, where are we going, the future. And again, Saturn represents government. So once again, we are seeing this dynamic of government and structure. And it's interesting you talked about Trump and the wall. Saturn represents building walls.
Yeah, he should build one around his whole family, and then we should send that up on the next rocket that explodes. Do us all a favor. You remember when you were a kid, you used to use that expression, drop dead, do the world a favor?
Yeah, I used to hear it quite a bit, yeah.
Oh, they said it to you? Again, I was hoping they didn't say it to you.
No. But what I'm getting at is everything, we astrologers have this ear for verbiage. When we hear certain stories or we hear certain things that are being projected out there and we equate it to the cycles, because that's what astrology is understanding the cycles. We are like sitting there going, oh my God, it's just like, we've discovered the holy grail of language here, for cycles. And so it's so interesting to see how everything in our daily lives is being reflected by this. But this new moon, and also I have to throw in this, the Mercury retrograde.
That was going to be my next question. If we got all this action already, new moon, solar eclipse in Virgo, and now Mercury's retrograding through Virgo, what the hell? How much more is this going to amp up?
Well, exactly. Mercury is in Virgo, number one, and it's retrograde, so its power is heightened a bit. But retrograde means going back, or not being able to move forward. So we have sort of this push-pull going on. And I wrote this in my newsletter. I think I went a little longer on the newsletter this month, but people could read it at my website, planetswithin.com. But it's this push-pull that we have going on between the solar eclipse that says, let's take better care of our lives, our bodies, our health, our food, and so on and so forth, and the T-square that's enacted, putting this psychological, emotional pressure on us to change in some way, versus the uncertainty of the Neptune in the alignment and the Mercury retrograde. Right. So it's like, how do we move forward when we don't know which way to go or what to do?
Right. When in doubt, do nothing. Right. I always say, when in doubt, do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I did write in there, we're in a no man's land. It's going to feel like we're in a no man's land, right. Because that's exactly what it's going to feel like the first 22 days of this month, given these cosmic alignments that are taking place. Right. Now, what's the best thing to do? Stay centered, stay heart-centered, realize who you are, go out in nature. Mm-hmm. Play with animals. If you have children, spend more quality time with the kids. And so things that get you back to the natural way of looking at the world are going to be much more beneficial in the long run. Right. You see, this energy is going to be amped up, no doubt about it, because it is Virgo. We're going through Virgo. The sun is going through Virgo. We still have Jupiter in Virgo until the 9th. Mercury is in Virgo. So the tendency is going to be for nervous energy from time to time, especially around the middle of the month when the lunar eclipse comes in. And I know we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yay.
But it's just... Yeah, exactly. The energy is so unpredictable this month that anything is possible.
Right.
Okay. Right. And I have a couple of ideas of what I think is going to happen. So we'll cover that in a few minutes, I'm sure.
I wanted to ask you because you're in my opposite, even though both of us are in mile high cities. So, but it always helps me to hear what feedback you're getting. What I have noticed is all of a sudden, the past, I want to say maybe half dozen people that have contacted me for a consultation, they're all in a panic, they're all in a rush, and they all want to leave their jobs or leave where they're living. Mm-hmm. And of course, I keep writing to all of them, don't make any changes until after September 22nd. But it's almost like, usually a person will contact me, book a consultation, and they're okay. If I book them a week or two out, wow, how quick. Now it's like, I need this today. That's the kind of panic energy that's out there. Are you seeing the same thing?
Oh, yeah. My 3 clients today that I've got this afternoon are kind of in the same boat, yes. Look, the bottom line is the Virgo energy is making the nervous system get activated. The Mars and the Saturn in Sagittarius is making us want to explore or leave. The energy is very high. And then when you add all of this confusion into the mix, people are just reacting. Mm-hmm. They're just reacting. They're impulsively saying, I can't take this anymore. I need to break free. Mm-hmm. Now, Virgo also rules employment. Okay, it has to do with employees. It has to do with daily responsibilities. And so it's normal for people to feel this frustration. Remember, Virgo is the perfectionist. So it analyzes everything to death. And then on top of that, it'll even continue to nitpick, right? Even after things have gone their way. So it's just the way it is. But because of this heavy square, because of the Virgo energy, because of these planets in Sagittarius, we are feeling. I am seeing so many people here moving because they can't take it anymore, and it's not anything. I mean, this is a quiet town, but it's the desire for some sort of a different experience and trying to vent or experience something different that is causing them to move. You see, and a lot of them, unfortunately, are going back to where they came from. Their hometown in the Midwest, or their hometown here, or their hometown there.
Well, I heard many years ago, I was told by some Native Americans that if somebody moves to Sedona, they should only be there and can only be there for about 7 years, and then they have to give the space to somebody else.
And I could see that, Maria.
I would think it would probably get to be too much living there after that amount of time. I mean, it would be too much for me and that kind of energy. Do you know what I mean? But here's another thing, because you talked about ETs and UFOs. I don't know what your client base is. Mine is pretty varied. But I do happen to have a lot of extremely high light workers who have been attacked, who have had biological weapons thrown at them, government agents showing up at their house, attacked by the Air Force, helicopters, men in suits. Some of them saying that they've been implanted, they have implants. And for whatever reason, the past 2 weeks, so many of them have contacted me because they're being pursued even harder.
Well,
so I just look at, the time is now. It's now or never.
Well, all I could say is that knowing what I know about the UFO community and the ETs, and of course I can't prove any of this. I'm just, basically regurgitating a lot of the information I've learned over the years. But my common sense tells me there's some sort of truth to this. Because of this transformation that we're going through, what the 2012 represented was a doorway, an opening, in a cosmic alignment for higher vibration. We are these souls that are coming in and have been coming in since '92 are more aware. They're more awake, and many of them are ETs. And I've been watching some videos on YouTube, and again, I'm not giving that any credibility, but some amazing things that some of these kids are doing, like flashing from one place to another,
Right.
And I mean, these are hidden cameras too. This is not something that I think is being recorded. But my point being is that these kids are higher vibrational beings who are more aware. And you want to talk about, people that don't feel like they fit in. I've got friends here, and I see people here, Maria. Then when I look at them, I know they're not from this planet.
Right.
I mean, I could tell a Palladian when I see one,
Oh, yeah.
or I could tell someone that's not from this environment.
Right.
I could just sense their energy.
Well, unfortunately, I'm in the middle of a lot of people who I think are walking upright for the first time on this planet. That's for sure. Joe, we got to go to a break. When we get back, we do have a little good news, I hope. Jupiter is going to find its way into Libra on the 9th. So stay with us. Joe and I will be right back. Hi, this is Maria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education, by a small subscription on my site. Get over to maria.net, MERIA.net. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a donation to keep the work going. There are too many alternative voices out there that are being silenced because of lack of support. So if you don't want MSM to be the only mind-controlling news out there, please consider supporting the people that support you. And help us all save something for the future for our children. Thank you so much.